Welcome to February 10th, 2022 Parma City School District Board of Education meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call please, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Present.
Mrs. Carpus.
Present.
Mr. Price.
Present.
Mr. Ruda.
Present.
Mr. Vaughn.
Present. Dr. Smiley, can you please confirm that the meeting is currently being live streamed?
Yes, it is.
Can you please monitor the live streaming throughout the meeting? And if there is a problem, please speak up immediately so that we can correct the technical difficulties.
Yes, we will.
Thank you. Information to the board, Dr. Smiley.
Yeah, a couple different things. First, thank you for the executive session tonight. Some people were confused. They turned on. They saw a 2-minute entry or exit from the last meeting. So we had an executive session this evening to discuss some strategies related to negotiations. Under Ohio Sunshine Law, we are allowed to do that, to have those conversations in executive session. No vote was taken, nor would there be. That also is part of the law. But we had a very healthy conversation, and we look forward to continuing that dialogue. Second, I know that many of you already understand this, but we relaxed the mask mandate this afternoon. This was something that we had been eyeing for some time. Certainly, COVID numbers had decreased substantially since really the beginning of January, and so we felt that we were ready to do that. We've gotten some questions, and fairly so, on why students still have to wear a mask on a bus. And I will tell you that it's extremely confusing. But we've had several opinions from the ESC, who has consulted their attorneys, ESC being the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. They have consulted their attorneys, and this is the really legalese that it comes down to. The CDC, while most of their actions throughout this entire pandemic have been recommendations, this was actually an order. And so the CDC continues to require that masks be worn on all public transportation, including school buses. The requirement is, regardless of vaccination status, all transportation services should follow applicable federal rules and regulations. They used, because folks have given us state law and how it comes down to what the meaning of the word conveyance is, but the CDC has used the definition for conveyance, which is defined in the Code of Regulations as an aircraft, train, road vehicle, vessel, or other means of transport, including military. So my understanding from our transportation director, actually, is that the CDC order will cease on March 18th. We'll certainly watch that. I will very transparently say that if we could relax that mandate, friends, we would. We know that at this point, families would like to move on for the most part. Certainly our bus drivers would be the first in line to want to move on from this mandate. But our understanding through legal consultation is that we still fall under that public transportation conveyance, and the CDC does have the authority to give an order. And in this case, that is what we're looking at. So wanted to share that. Wanted to share, we had 43 people participate in Building Our Future meetings over the last several days. We had sort of a delay because of snow days. I really encourage, we will post everything tomorrow that has been a part of the Building Our Future activities and exercises. Please tune in, watch the PowerPoints, look at what's on Facebook. We are going to survey now our community, and really the folks who have been going to the meetings are very educated about what we're trying to present and project as the future footprint of our district. I know we're going to have a survey in the monitor. If you don't sort of read through the monitor, or you kind of look at what we have on Facebook, it might be a little bit of a shock to see what we're trying to really project as a fewer is better mantra. So we ask people to involve themselves as much as possible. We can certainly have additional meetings if folks want to join our activities and our organization, our committee, I should say, because we want to really educate people. Fewer is better is not necessarily a popular mantra at times. People think that smaller schools with more opportunities, and over our two meetings, I think we've done a really effective job at sharing data and programming and architectural designs that can really help make a larger building, effectively smaller for families, feel smaller for families, and still enable relationships between staff and students. And so we hope that people will educate themselves. We hope that they will participate in the survey, and we will share more tomorrow, although the monitor itself should be out sometime next week. So with those three things said, we will now turn to Mrs. Vanek, who we are very happy to have join us this evening. She is our Director of Emis and Assessment. This is her third year in that role. I know Deb's looking forward to talking to you, but if I can just kind of preface things. She handles the most nitty-gritty of all of the things that happen in our school district, and that cannot possibly be the most fun job at times, and yet Deb is always very approachable and ready to help in any way that she possibly can. We look for legal opinions from her. We look for opinions on how we qualify data, and she's always right on top of it, and we really appreciate that. And we can do all of the PowerPoints we want to here, and all the presentations we want to our families and to our communities, but in the end, the only thing that matters in Columbus is what Deb Vanek funnels to them. So she's got an extremely important part in our funnel of the school district. So with those things said, Deb, you're up.
Now that I won't sleep tonight, thank you. Absolutely. As we go, you'll see I interact with a very, very group of people. It's amazing, and as different as each department is, every one of these people are dedicated to the Parma City Schools. I have not, there's people who are in the middle, well, I should say in the middle of the night, because I'm not calling in the middle of the night, but in the evening, pick up the phone, you text somebody, they're going to do something. John Cooper, 6 o'clock in the morning, is running every morning to make sure that office staff has the right information. It's amazing to see across all of these districts, all of the people here that are so dedicated. My title is Office of Emis and Assessment, but I do cover a wide range. Once again, as always, we start with our district goals, and I will address those and how we work to achieve those goals in the departments that I work with. Our playbook, while I'm not in the classroom, which I do miss, we're not in the classroom, we are providing support so that students and teachers can learn and succeed, and we can increase the achievement of our students. Once again, working with resilient learners, whatever background information people need, whatever data they need, we pull and provide that as well. And once again, with our DIS side, we make sure teachers and students can access the information that they need that is given to them online. Here are the major functions of all the departments that I oversee. Assessments, which are our Ohio State tests, or SATs, or ACTs, AP tests. Emis, which stands for Education Management Information System, and I'll go a little further into that. I will just say, I know as soon as I say Emis and I start to nerd out on that, everyone's eyes glaze over, but I will just give you a little bit of it to see. So when you say, what is Emis? Everyone who works in the school district is involved in Emis, but I'm the one who funnels it into the state and the computer. I also oversee right now, and I have the pleasure of working at the print shop, with the print shop. I don't work at the print shop, with Danny Saloon, and then DIS. And I'll say we have two sides. The student information side, and then the DIS side, where we're talking about the equipment itself. Here's my team. Building test coordinators, we have 3. Amy Vineyard is my administrative specialist. She's my other side of the Emis. SIS, so Student Information System, we have John Cooper, Melissa Manko, Sue Iwascu, Jason Smith, Rich Weaver. DIS, Dan Gideon, Gary Fez, and then we have 8 technicians that work within the buildings. Dan Saloom and his 5 pressmen work at the print shop. And then Kim Hansel, I share. Kathy Pulaski is our asset clerk. So what are we doing when I say DIS? With DIS, as I said, Dan and Gary and the technicians, what do? They support PBLA. They also support our parents who can't get into a system, such when we're at home. They will always try to remote in. Door 50, in the back of Parma High, if you go there, they can come and swap out Chromebooks. They can get assistance as needed. We have the help desk. The help desk will help parents as they come into the door or remotely. Texter station in each of the middle and high schools. So Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 9:30 for students that get instant support for their devices. They're in the high school longer, but they're dedicated there all the time for those 2 hours especially. When we're testing, they deploy into the buildings to make sure they're there as well. When I say permit setups, while they don't generate the permits, we've been working with Dr. Schneider's department on bringing that online. And then the one thing that we've done this year too is update all access points in all buildings so we have better access to the internet. Once again, what are we doing to practice fiscal responsibility? We've upgraded the server infrastructure. We've implemented a new imaging solution for desktop computers. Once again, trying to make sure that when kids are online, especially now that we've gone online, even in classes now that we're back, we are still using a lot of online technology. And we can make sure that there's no downtime. You know, the spinning wheel of death, we don't want. That shuts all learning down. So we've done what we can to try to improve that with the access points and with the infrastructure. We're in the process of refreshing office staff desktop computers. They've been running old Windows for a long time, so they're finally getting the new desktop computers. And we're looking at completion of upgrading the rest of the Chromebooks for the rest of our students. That has to go before the board yet, it has not. But our goal is to be the last 4 grades will get the new Chromebooks. The Chromebook 5s, which some have still, have little glitches still because new to old, the Chromebook 8s, they're much faster. We've done that with our PBLA students now because they are all online, and we see a better day-to-day movement with the new Chromebooks. So hopefully every student will have had the most updated Chromebook by the end of this year. We're using that for ESSER funds, and like I said, to finish this up, it will have to go before the board and be approved still. We are exploring ITC service bringbacks. So there's some phones and some computer-based servers that we are now paying for NeoNet, who's our ITC. We've sat down and met with them. We believe that we can handle some of that to bring back some more, I'll say more money back into the district without increasing staff. That's in the exploration stage. We should know more by next year for that. And then we are creating the replacement rotation for technology. Eventually our teachers are going to need new computers. How do we do that fiscally responsible? How do we keep our students in the most up-to-date technology too? Right now we have ESSER funds. That won't be true in 5 years from now. Moving to the print shop. As I said, it's Dan Sloom and his private pressman. They started the year being down 2 people. One of the gentlemen that works down in the print shop was hit by a car, and he was in the hospital and rehabbing. He just came back from now, it's 2 weeks ago, part-time. He was not down, we could not replace him, and we were down another person. We still, when I say we, they still were able to get teachers their prints within the 24 hours. People who get, you put it in the morning, and if they get it picked up in the morning, a lot of times you have it that afternoon. So when I say within 24 hours, I mean it is sometimes that day even. So even being down, they worked overtime, they worked just to get the jobs done. And then the green sheets that I referenced up there, that's what administrators have to, we put those in. Sometimes those get held up a little bit, but within 3 to 5 days, they have those. But they make sure the teachers have what they need within the 24-hour period. To utilize the print shop, which saves us a lot of money. It's cheaper to print at the print shop than it is to print in your building on the copiers. We implemented a new print-to-copier program, which reduces the cost of printing and allows principals to monitor printing usage. So right now, we're doing the cost analysis, trying to show teachers and administrators the cost effectiveness of using the print shop override. It's real easy to walk to the printer and make my copies, but if I'm doing 100 copies, I think I had 24 hours and have those copies. And then another large money savings, when he was able to maintain the large printer past the lease date, we purchased this printer for $1. This so far has saved the district the $32,000. And hopefully we'll be able to keep it again next year to save another 32. Eventually, we're going to have to replace it. But any money that he can save, he being Dan Sloan, he does. So Emis and assessment, that's Amy Vader and myself. So what do we do in Emis? As Dr. Smiler referenced, we get staff data, we get student data, I get schedule, when I say schedules, we get courses, all of that goes to the state. The state of Ohio knows so much, when I say about our students, if I have a student named John Smith, they don't know John Smith, they know SSID. So they could tell you 1534768, everything about that number, they would not know your name. But they can tell you what courses you've taken, they can tell you who your teachers are, they'll tell you if your teachers are properly certified. They'll tell you when you enrolled, where you enrolled, and all of that's the information that we give up, and that's how we get the funding for students, based on the information that we send up, and that's how our report card generates the data. The other thing, SOS is community schools. Previous years, we had to go in and look at SOS and approve them at the community school. The laws have changed and the funding no longer runs through the school, the public school district, but we still are looking at SOS to make sure the students who say they live in Parma do live in Parma. So, and this is just me, in my opinion, I believe in the next 2 years when they change the funding pattern again, that SOS will come back to districts, and we don't want just anybody who says they live in Parma being charged against Parma. So we still have to go through and verify all of that. That takes quite a bit of time for us to do, but we still look at the different students in our community schools. We have to also work with other districts, because if I say John Smith is attending Parma, but Strongsville is also saying John Smith is attending Parma, there's a clash. With that clash, nobody gets paid for John Smith. So we have to work that out. Hey, when did John come to work or come to school at Parma, or go to school at Strongsville, and make sure our dates jive. And then we work with the stakeholders, as I say, throughout the buildings, or throughout central office especially, to make sure that the information is correct. We work with enrollment, we work with payroll, to make sure teachers, and we work with HR to make sure their licensure is correct, and that everything that we're sending up is the most accurate information that we have. I also work with the BTCs, which are building test coordinators. I have 3 of them, and they deploy through all 14. They don't go to preschool schools. They assist at the building level. They train new teachers on how to give assessments. They help as well with alternate assessments, OELPA, which are for our English language learners, and OELPS is the entrance for our EL students. And then we make sure that the buildings are testing all their students, so our performance on our report card is the best that it can be. And they work to make sure that everything is tracked, and they give me that information, which then I have to send up to the state. So my first goal was on data management. So I'll read it. All departments will meet to establish goals and objectives to best meet the district's need for data, processes, and equipment. So I'm trying to cover all the people that I work with. And DIS is looking at the outsourced computer services to bring back. The print shop manages all print jobs and assists stakeholders, and trying to save money or bring back any kind of money that they can do. Train and oversee new registration specialists. Jennifer Nance was hired in November, worked with her to make sure she had the best information on enrollment and how we enroll students and what the laws are for that. And then we oversee any registration. We also oversee and train secretaries and staff if they need, as they're moving into a new job, so that they also know how to enroll students or withdraw students so that the data is correct. And then my goal 2 is Emis, and once again, data quality. I do sit and look at Excel all day long, just flipping numbers all day, so when I start talking about that, I do get a little excited. And this is about as excited as I know the numbers get. So when we talk about focus on Emis systems and collections to include all data stakeholders, I could go sit in my office all day and flip those numbers and say, that looks good, that looks good, that looks good. I don't know, and I don't know John Smith, but I don't know that John Smith really left on this date. I don't know that John Smith is not a tuition student. I have to work with the other stakeholders. The people in the buildings know their kids. They know their data. They own their data. I'm only the vessel, I'll say, that sends it up to the state. So I have to work, and that's a learning curve too for people, because they're like, Emis, you do it, you do it. But we have to work with everyone so that they understand the importance of the correct data and how it lends to increased funding as long as everything's correct. Our data is correct for our report card. Somebody that I work with, and it's John Cooper, said to me a long time ago, and this resonates in my head, our teachers and our kids work too hard for the data to be wrong. He said that to me years ago before I was in this position. And I think about that when we're trying to work something out and you just kind of want to go, it's okay, it's not okay. Kids and teachers work way too hard for that data not to be right to go to the state. So I will try and try and try to make sure we get every dime and every achievement is shown to the state of Ohio to reflect the hard work that happens in this district. So our priorities for this school year was to complete resource material for easy access for all. So teachers can go to CRO, I need to remember how to do my benchmarking. What does this mean? What tests are going? What's the test calendar look like? When do we test? Make sure it's easily accessible and people know where to find that at. Compliance with all Emis regulations, and they're continuously changing. Once again, continued review of training needs for the clerical staff. Continued support as needed for our registration departments. Continued refinement of data review by relevant departments. And then finally, provide timely customer service through help desk tickets and quick jobs. Once again, everyone that I work with, we are customer service based. If teachers are frustrated and they can't get things to work, kids aren't learning. If parents are frustrated and they can't get their computers to work, their kids can't learn. So we try to be customer service oriented and try to get that people helped so that they can do the jobs or learn like they need to. And at that point, that is the end of my presentation. I thank you for your time, and does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I am extremely impressed that you love this stuff so much. Because Emis is like, to me, I'm not a huge numbers. I like numbers, but usually 3s and 4s at a time. But if you gotta love numbers and data a lot to do this job. And it's, I'm very impressed with you. I'm very proud of your work. And I, for one, and I don't know if I speak for everybody here, but I am glad that you're in charge of this department, because that's fabulous that you're that passionate about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Deb Bannock, you are the epitome of why we say that Parma has the best teachers, staff, administrators anywhere, because you found a way to take numbers and tie that to students and their lives and teachers and their livelihoods and their life's work and put, like Steve said, passion behind it. That is incredible, and I will tell you that I have never had an emotion about Emis until now, and I have a nice positive emotion towards it. So just kudos for everything you and your staff do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job.
And I didn't nerd out as bad as I could have, so. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
I just want, great job. I'm kind of dizzy. And I love numbers. However, great job. I mean, I understand how really critical all of that data going to the state is and how important it is to the district to have it right. But I love that you emphasize the fact that our kids and our teachers work too hard to not have it right.
Thank you. And that's what runs.
That's pretty good.
That's what runs all our departments, and that was prior to me taking over. The people I work with are just so dedicated.
That's great.
Excellent.
Well, thank you.
The only other piece I would add is we're really lucky to have Deb because and you can see it in the way she put together her presentation. She's an educator, and a lot of times in those roles, you get folks who don't have that background. And she knows our schools, she knows our principals, she knows our systems. So we're very lucky to have you, Deb, and I'm just very grateful that you are so hardworking behind the scenes and really own everything that you do and do it extremely well. Thank you.
Okay.
That concludes our superintendent's piece tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Smile. Communications, Mrs. Harpus.
The only thing that I have is an announcement that our annual, well, it's not ours, but Net Partners Education's annual pierogi dinner is Friday, March 4th. And tickets are available at the usual places, or they can go to the PI social media, Partners in Education, Parma social media, and connect with whomever needs to be connected with, and it'll be at Normandy.
I was going to say, they used to be here, right?
Yep, now it's at Normandy.
I thought I had read there was a new change there.
I'm sure they're going to do, yes, dine-in and carry-out begins at 3:30. Fish dinner's 15, pierogi dinner 12, mac and cheese 10. And it comes with all the workings and, yes.
See, Mr. Nucio, Sword and Shield can raise their costs too.
Yes.
Is there anything else?
No, that was all I had. I'm sorry,
Mr.
Steve.
Nucio?
Yes, I'm sure about 3.5, maybe 4 years ago, we requested the auditor state send us out to the contract for our audit, because it was handled by the auditor state for years. And they granted our wish saying, okay, Ray and Associates is going to do your financial audit for the next 3 years. And now the 3 years are up.
Oh, wow. That was fast.
They gave us the option for another 3-year contract with Ray and Associates. And I asked Mr. Price and Mr. Vaughn if we could still stay with them, and they said, yes, sure. So I did contact the auditor state and say, we want to go with Ray and Associates for the next 3 years. So we're going to do
They're a
that.
very reputable firm. They're
Yes.
really a good firm.
And after that 3 years, we're going back to the auditor state, but
Oh,
it's not my choice.
Who knows, if we keep up the good work, maybe they'll give us another 3 years.
It'd be nice.
good.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Any amendments tonight? This brings us to the public participation. So at this point, we are opening the meeting to the public to address the board on tonight's agenda items. And we have a request here. Sure, got the right one. We have Mr. Johns, you want to speak to the board about addressing policy 2416 that is up for vote today?
It's not
Before you start,
okay.
before you start,
Yeah.
don't start his time yet. This is very neatly written.
No, it's printed.
It's printed. Oh.
Sorry about the other
it's-
scribble. I actually have an
so
Adobe
impressed about the word you
editor.
printed.
No,
All right,
sorry.
Very good. All right, sorry.
It's not just policy 2416, it's all of the policy changes. The unfortunate problem is there's nothing in the agenda item that shows the prior policy. So no one knows exactly what was changed in the policy.
The prior policies are all on the policy website live still.
Correct.
But we don't know. See, I didn't know that. That should have been
That was
published.
brought
I
up
think.
like 3 years ago.
Okay, yeah, so when I went to read through the policies, I'm like, okay, what did we change in these policies? I don't know. Now, the first readings, I understand that, but these are ones that are up for approval, so I would.
They're technical changes, so the only thing we're changing is the last reviewed date. So this was been a
Well, see, that,
policy-
okay, see, I didn't know that, so technical to me could be anything, it could be
Yeah.
3 words, could be 1 word, could be a date, okay. That's all I wanted to say on that, so.
It's also potentially if we change to like a director or.
Right.
Yeah, a title.
Sometimes it said
These ones
myself,
are
Like I said, there was
specific to-
nothing
Those,
to compare this to
yeah,
understand
just
what
the-
was changed,
Yeah,
okay?
the ones that are live on the website are the current, and then anything you see
Okay.
on board docs. is-
Because I know 3 years ago, we had that same similar
Yes.
statement brought up that they didn't know, so we left it up that way.
Okay.
We did policy.
Now I know.
Made it very easy.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. All right. This brings us to approval of record of proceedings. I move to adopt Resolution 2022-02-27, approval of the written record of proceedings from January 27, 2022 regular meeting, and special work session Board of Education meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-27. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-02-27 has been approved. That's a lot of twos. All right. Do we have any motion? Okay, I see. It's time to move on to Mrs. Bratz. Curriculum, Mrs. Bratz.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-0228, approval of College Credit Plus Partnership Memorandum of Understanding between Cuyahoga Community College and the Parma City School District.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-028. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes. Resolution 2022-02-28 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2022-0229, approval of College Credit Plus Partnership Memorandum of Understanding between Kent State University and the Parma City School District.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-29. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes. Resolution 2022-02-29 has been approved.
Unless another board member has anything to discuss this evening, that will conclude curriculum.
Thank you,
Mr. Vaughn.
Mrs. Bratz. I appreciate that. Mr. Ruda, business?
There's no items tonight, so unless a board member has anything to discuss, I don't have anything to do with business tonight.
Okay, nothing but business. Thank you, Mr. Ruda. Finance, Mr. Kreis.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-02-30, approval of supplemental appropriations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-30. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'm wondering about the school safety grant, what that's being used for.
Walkie-talkies.
Sean, you want to come?
We talked about this.
Yeah.
This is a grant we received. The state just came out with a couple months ago. They finally gave us the money. But what it is, it's going to be, part of it, I believe, is going to be used for Alice. And another part is walkie-talkies that the schools have that go directly to the police department. It's not normal
Gotcha.
ones like you communicate with someone else in the building. It goes directly to the police department. So the police departments keep in contact with the schools.
Yep, I remember a conversation about that, just didn't know that's what that was being used for. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, the Resolution 2022-02-30 has been approved.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-02-31, acceptance of contributions and donations.
Second?
Sorry.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-31. Any questions or comments from the board? I have a thank you for Mrs. Planska for her monetary donation to the Green Valley School. That's very nice of you. Thank you again for remembering Parma City Schools and you donate. Thank you, Slim. Anybody else?
Ditto.
No, ditto, okay, ditto. Roll call, Ms. Nucio.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes. Resolution 2022-02-31 has been approved.
Unless another board member has anything to discuss tonight, this concludes finance.
Thank you, Mr. Kreis. Very well done. Legislation, Mrs. Carpus?
I don't have anything tonight. Mr. Frost, did anything?
Nothing for legislation. They're still working on their things.
They are. They're,
Takes us to Human Resources, Mrs. Bratz.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-0232, approval of the following certificated exhibits. confirmation of stipend amounts, confirmation of supplemental appointments, confirmation of supplemental contracts, approval of certificated non-compensated leaves of absence, confirmation of substitute teacher appointments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-32. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio, roll call.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-02-32 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-0233, acceptance of certificated retirement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-33. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-02-33 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2022-0234, revision of the department chair job description and adoption of revised job description.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-34. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Good comment.
So thank you to Mrs. Stropko and Dr. Schneider for their work on this. Thank you also for the collaboration with PEA, as we were able to come to an agreement on what a job description could look like that really takes the department chair from someone who is sort of a department clerk and makes them an actual instructional leader within the department. So this should really help us to advance our mission of student achievement by allowing them to exercise a little bit more leadership skills in terms of what instruction and assessment looks like in the classroom.
Excellent, thank you. Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-02-34 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-0235, approval of the following classified exhibits. Confirmation of classified appointments replacements, confirmation of change of classified assignments, confirmation of classified resignations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-35. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes. Resolution 2022-02-35 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-0236, approval of changes to AC4 account clerk job description.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-36. Any questions or comments from the board?
It's just really updating these. They're actually in the Treasurer's Department, and the new descriptions will better align with what these folks are actually doing on a day-to-day basis, which should be a qualification of a job description.
Very good. Anybody else? Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-02-36 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2022-0237, approval of changes to AC5 account clerk job description.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-37. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-02-37 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2022-0238, motion to approve Memorandum of Understanding regarding COVID-19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-38. Any questions or comments from the board?
Can you kind of explain what this is a little bit?
So we started with this COVID cleaner piece really last school year and painted in a way that we thought was fair and we agreed to. OC brought some concerns to us. I will say that of many stipulations within this, I think the most important one is that if a cleaner is at step 5 and then they do COVID cleaning, they're still going to get that step 5 pay. that was a big part of what the dispute was. We had kicked it down to, well, now it's a COVID cleaner, so now you're going to get step one, and that wasn't maybe the intent of what we had come to. So the agreement will make sure that they get paid commensurate with their step.
Yeah.
Anything else, anybody? No. Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes?
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes. Resolution 2022-02-38 has been approved.
Unless another board member has anything to discuss this evening, that will conclude human resources.
Very nice. Thank you, Mrs. Bratz. Appreciate that. Policy, Mrs. Carpus.
Yes. I move to adopt Resolution 2022-02-39, approval of the following policy technical changes. Policy 0122, Board Powers, last review date 4/14/2003. Policy 0122.1, Member Powers, last review date 11/17/1997. Policy 2416, Student Privacy and Parental Access to Information, last review date of 11/18/2002. Policy 3122.01, Drug-Free Workplace, last review date 10/21/2002. Policy 210, Staff Ethics, last review date 10/21/2002. Policy 3212, Staff Conduct, last review date 10/21/2002. I'm actually going to pause. Is this a typo? Should it be Policy 3210?
There's 3210 and then 3212.
Okay, I don't, mine, yeah, mine just says 210.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So it's Policy 3210, Staff Ethics, last review date 10/21/2002. Policy 3212, Staff Conduct, last review date 10/21/2002. Policy 5120, Assignment within District, last review date of 11/17/1997. Policy 5130, Withdrawal from School, last review date 11/17/1997.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-02-39. Any questions or comments from the board?
I actually have one, to Mr. Johns' question. For anybody watching or who wants to track it, under the resolutions, it'll say if it's a tech change or a revised or a new policy, and the tech changes are the ones that'll have like the review dates at the end of them, to know that there was really no change in meaning of the policy, just updated either positioning dates or review date or updated like legal language in terms of what the current legal verbiage is.
So whatever we alluded to earlier in the meeting with the
Yes,
question.
yes, but that way, anybody else who's
Just
watching.
clarifying.
Yeah, anybody else who's watching.
Very good. Excellent, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
So, nothing was changed in any of these, right, so we're just clarifying for this is just
Yeah, these are just the tech.
reading them again, making sure that
You know,
they're
there might
good,
be
and
one
then-
word change, I think, that was in one of them that was an updated, I think we took out maybe a name and put the position in there. Hold on. I can't remember what it exactly was. It was in the last one, the withdraw from school one, because we had a conversation about it.
But there were no substantive changes.
Yeah,
that's-
yeah, no substitute.
Yeah, nothing major. Anybody else? Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes. Resolution 2022-02-39 has been approved.
First reading, this is the first reading of the following revised policies. Policy 8600, transportation. Policy 8651, non-routine use of school buses. Both are revised and both are just basic Neola language. And then a first reading of the following new policy. Policy 5111.02, educational opportunity for military children. Basically, that one just allows us to waive some of the, Mrs. Vanek would explain it the best, but waive some of the things
Requirements.
to get them into school sooner before everything else is established, so these children don't have a gap in their educational experience. And unless anybody has anything else for policy, that just concludes it.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Very well done. Do we have any information requested by board members? Did we get it?
I just did have a question. Since we were talking about the busing, you said that a law firm reviewed that. Was that our Is there any way
This was from Pebble and Wagner, who represents the Educational Service Center.
Right, is there any way that we can get clarification from our,
We can, but I promise you.
it would feel better if it was our own attorneys than some outside organization.
Sure. And we could do that, but I want to clarify that this wasn't just given to us, this was given to
I get that.
all districts in Northeast Ohio.
I get that.
But yeah.
Right, no, I was just, because I know some districts have done away with it and all that, and just want, just for the people to know, so our lawyers review it and show them, say, look, our lawyers did, we're not just accepting the word of some other organization saying we have to follow this.
Sure.
This is what our attorneys told us.
I'd be happy to send it to Mr. Rose tomorrow.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Was that in reference to one of the policy things? Or just
That was something that he had said.
thing?
Masks on
Okay.
buses.
All right. Very
You
good.
asked any other information
any
as to the board members.
That's-
That's what I
That's
think.
where I'm trying to figure out where that connection is.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even realize that we weren't done with policy. I thought we were just done with that, and now we were just going into it.
No, that was right.
It was fine.
You were on the information.
You were good.
You were good, right?
I was on it.
No, you were
I just
on.
was lost for a
There was
second.
information requested by board members.
Okay, so
All right. This is now is the opportunity to have questions read into the record. We have one question asked to be read into the record for a statement. How much punctuation? This is from Michael John at 7401 Dogwood Lane. I assume it's a question. When did the superintendent advise the school board of the change in curriculum by using diversity center modifications? Do you want to answer that real quick, or do you want me to read his comment first?
I guess the Northeast Ohio Diversity Center was selected as part of our Embrace All work. This was the second year that they've done professional development for us. There has not been a change in the curriculum. The workshop they did was specifically designed to help teachers better relate to and therefore embrace, which is part of our board adopted mission statement, students of varying gender orientations, sexual orientations, I shouldn't say gender identifications and sexual orientations. So this was not a curricular piece at all. In fact, and I've gotten several emails about this because folks have asked, why are you trying to hide this from the parents? Because on the worksheet, it actually says, this is not to be used with students. And so some have alleged that we were trying to hide it and not let the teachers give it to the kids because the kids will show their parents and that's what they're learning in school. And that's not it at all. It was specifically designed as a tool to help our teachers have more tools in their toolbox to relate to a greater diversity of students. And that was where it was to die. It is not meant as any type of basis in a lesson or any type of piece of our curriculum.
You still want me to read this? Verbatim, statement 2010, 2022 from Michael Johns, subject policy 2416. Based on this policy, there can be no discussion of any sexual orientation of any type with any student without parents' permission, unless the student is over the age of 18 or emancipated. If a student talks to a staff member about sexual orientation of any type, that conversation must stop, and the parents or guardian must be notified before that conversation goes any farther. This policy makes it clear that a staff member may not discuss psychological or sex behavior or sex attitudes without direct permission of the parent. With that said, it makes the Parma City Schools Administration in direct violation of policy 2416 and other listed below for dissemination of attached document of the Diversity Center. This document instructs teachers and staff not to share dependent information with students, which in turn denies the parents of any knowledge of what is being taught in the classroom. And I quote, 1, this handout is specifically designed for educator and school staff professional use only. Students should not be given access to any resources or information on this document. 1, the Diversity Center document is a direct violation of policy 2416 based on its sexual content. 2, the Diversity Center document directs staff members to change curriculum without board approval, a direct violation of board policy. 3, the Diversity Center document handed out is in direct violation of policies 2020 or 2210, 2605, and 2520.2. 4, the Diversity Center document handed out is in direct violation of state and federal laws and policy 2270 by referring to religious websites to be used for the educational process. Last page of our reference materials. Based on paragraph 5 of policy 2416 and the above quote from the Diversity Center handout, 1 denies parents the afforded review of all curriculums. The individual or individuals that disseminated this document to staff members directing them to change daily curriculum without permission of the school board must be reprimanded and or terminated immediately for violation of state and federal law and Neola policies used by the Parma City School District. The Diversity Center contract must be terminated immediately for violation of federal and state laws by recommending the religious items to be inserted into the school's curriculum. Also for coercion of staff members to directly violate school policies and statutory laws. Michael Johns. That's it. So, wow.
Can I?
Would you like?
Yes,
I'm
thank you.
like flabbergasted.
So I would like, this is what I would like to say. The content covered in the diversity training is not one of the items listed in our policy that require parental consent. Those items are political affiliations, mental or psychological problems, sex behavior, attitudes, and I will get back to that in a second, illegal or antisocial behaviors, critical appraisals of parents or close family members, income, religious practices, or privileged relationships like your lawyer, your doctor, your priest, things like that. Britannica defines human sexual behavior or human sexual activity as an activity solitary or between two persons or in a group that induces sexual arousal. Gender identity and sexual orientation do not in and of themselves induce sexual arousal, which is the definition of sexual behavior. Therefore, this is not one of those items. Under this interpretation, it would say that if my daughter decided to go on a prom date with someone, she's discussing that she is heterosexual, and therefore the school would need to call me and tell me that my daughter is heterosexual and get permission to discuss the fact that my daughter is going to prom with a person of the opposite sex. That is that is exactly what the interpretation of that is. So it is not in violation of that. I do not know the reference content to the religious item. That would be something I think you can take a look at.
I'd be happy to take the entire statement and put together, I believe I have 72 hours. Yeah. Are those working hours or are those?
You actually technically have them for the next board meeting.
Yeah, it was always weird. It said 72 hours or the next.
Or the next board meeting.
No, it actually calls out for the next board meeting for the answer.
Be happy to get that ready for the next board meeting.
Yeah, it says within the next 72 hours or by next scheduled board meeting.
I mean, that's just bizarre.
It's in
You're
case
3
we-
days or 2 weeks, up to
Well,
you.
it's in case we have back-to-back board meetings.
I'll give you 2 weeks. I'll give you 2.
Thank you so much.
I don't care.
All right.
Just as long as there's an answer.
All right. Any others? No. All right. Don't need that. I like this page. All right. I move to adopt resolution 2022-02-41 to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-20-41. Any questions? I doubt it. Should we start a roll call?
Steve's like, I'm done.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Aye.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.